Now we're going to build the wheel arch curves. So I'll turn the side curves off and I'll go into the left view. And there's a couple of different ways to create these arch curves. But I'm going to work with the circle tool on the curves palette. So I'll double click to open the option box. And you'll see that the initial setting is for a periodic circle to be on. So I'll just create one of those and scale it roughly up to size. And I'm just going to move this over to the real wheel arch position. And I can remember the 2420 dimension. And then I can create another circle. But this time I'll do a non-periodic. And I'll just take the default settings so that I can show you the difference. And the first thing you'll notice is that the CV layout is very different between the two curves. This non-periodic is a single span, but more importantly I have a start and an end CV. And if I move them, I can break the circle and just open it up into a normal curve. But if I do the same on the periodic curve, if I pick this CV and move it, the circle stays as a closed smooth loop, whichever CV I move. And that's how a periodic circle works. Now we can work successfully with both these types of curve. So I'll start by having a look at the non-periodic circles. So I'll go back to the circle tool and double click again. And it may be for the wheel arch I only want a semicircle. So I can type in 180 degrees. And I'll just leave the other settings for now. And then grid snap that and scale it again. And you can see that we get a much nicer layout of the CVs. But let's check the accuracy with the radius locator. And if I move that around, you'll see that it's pretty good, but it's not completely accurate. So if I wanted to improve that accuracy, I have a couple of options. Increasing the degree will increase accuracy, so I could have 6 or 7, but I'll just stick with 6. But I can also change these segments, so instead of one 180 degree curve, I can have 2 segments. And if I use Pick Curve here, you'll see that I have now 2 separate 90 degree curves. And again, they're just single span. So if I check that now, it's very accurate. So I can delete that locator, and I'll just finish the wheel arch off by creating a degree 1 curve, point snap and vertically, and then another one. So that gives me one approach to the wheel arch. But let's see what we could do with the periodic circle, which has many more spans. Well, I don't want a full circle, I just want an arch. So I can use the detach tool here underneath attach. And if you remember, we used the control key to snap to isopalms on a surface. And that now works to edit points on a curve. So I can cut this curve on the same place on either side. And that then opens it up, and I can delete this part. And now I need to work carefully. So for example, if I grab all of these CVs and then move them and point snap them horizontally to this one, then I get a nice smooth change in the curve. And I can do the same on the other side. And it's really important to work in a disciplined way on a multi-span curve like this. Now if we check the accuracy, it's not going to be an accurate arc like the other one. But if I were to pick both curves and apply the curvature cone plot to them, then you can see that I get a different result, but the multi-span curve is pretty smooth. So if my design requires accurate arcs, then I'd build it with these single span accurate curves. But if I'm at an early concept stage and I want to experiment with some more fluid shapes, I may choose to use just one multi-span curve. So finally, I can pick the curves and offset them to create the outer edge of the wheel arches. Now eventually these curves will need to be moved out here to the right 3D location. But I'm going to cover that in the next section because we're going to use some different tools on the Surface Edit palette. And so if you want to understand periodic circles in a bit more depth, then take a look at the Circles and Revolves Theory Builder.